He needed me that night with me. You would have understood if you trusted me enough, she said, after spending the night at her ex's apartment on our anniversary. I didn't respond. Just went to the bedroom, started packing, and took the ring she'll never see. He really needed me that night. If you actually trusted me, you'd get it, she said, after coming home from her ex's apartment on our anniversary. I didn't say anything back. Just walked to the bedroom and started throwing clothes in a bag. So here's the thing about reaching peak clarity. Anger stops feeling useful. It's like your brain finally runs the numbers and realizes screaming won't change the math. The equation was simple. She picked him over me on the one night that mattered most. Everything else was just noise. Look, I'm not the guy who throws things or punches walls. Never saw the point. When you work in civil engineering, you spend your days calculating load-bearing capacities and stress tolerances. You learn pretty quick that emotional reactions don't change structural realities. A beam either holds or it doesn't. A foundation either cracks or it stays solid. Same principle applies to relationships, turns out. 3 years. That's how long Brittany and I had been together. 3 years of what I genuinely thought was building towards something permanent. We had the works, inside jokes, future plans, that comfortable rhythm where you don't have to explain yourself because the other person just gets it. Or so I thought. The anniversary thing wasn't some casual Tuesday I'd circled on a calendar. I'd been planning this night for 4 months. 4 months. I called La Bernardin back in February to get a reservation. You don't just walk into that place on a Saturday night. I bought a whole new outfit for it. Got a haircut 2 days before. Bought that stupidly expensive bottle of wine she'd mentioned loving 6 months ago when we went to some vineyard tour upstate. I remembered because I'm the kind of guy who remembers. And that ring. Man. 6 months of saving. I work a decent job as a civil engineer, but I'm not swimming in cash. Every paycheck, I'd been setting aside a chunk. Skipping lunches out with the guys. Bringing sandwiches from home. Passing on the new motorcycle I'd been eyeing. All of it going into this one perfect ring because I wanted her to have exactly what she deserved. The jeweler was 2 hours away. I'd done my research, found this guy who did custom work, and driven out there on a Saturday to work with him directly. We'd spent 3 hours going over different cuts, different settings. I had a picture on my phone, one I'd sneak screenshotted when Brittany was showing me some celebrity's engagement ring she liked. I wanted it to be perfect. It was 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning when everything fell apart. My girlfriend of 3 years, Brittany, walked through our front door looking like something the cat dragged in. And I don't mean hospital shift exhausted or pulled an all-nighter studying exhausted. I mean stayed up until 4 a.m., drinking cheap box wine and trauma bonding with an ex exhausted. There's a specific look to it. Trust me. The apartment was still decorated from the night before. I'd set everything up perfectly. Candles on the table, the expensive kind that actually smell good, not that cheap vanilla garbage from the discount store. Fresh flowers in a vase. I'd even cleaned the whole place, which if you know me is saying something. Vacuumed, wiped down surfaces, made the bed with the nice sheets. The whole domestic boyfriend thing. She dropped her keys on the console table. That sound, metal hitting wood, echoed through the apartment like a gunshot in all that silence. I was sitting on the couch, still in the same outfit I'd worn the night before. Navy button-down shirt, pressed slacks, the leather shoes I only break out for special occasions. I hadn't changed. Hadn't showered, hadn't slept, just sat there all night watching the door, checking my phone, going through every possible explanation in my head. Started with the innocent ones. Car accident, phone died, some emergency at work, then moved to the less innocent. She forgot. She's with friends and lost track of time. She's avoiding me for some reason. Then finally landed on the truth my gut had known since hour 3 of waiting. She's with him. Oh, you're up, she said, kicking off her boots by the door. She didn't even look guilty yet, just annoyed that I was awake. She rubbed her temples in this theatrical way, fishing for sympathy. God, what an absolute nightmare of a night. I am completely destroyed right now. She walked past me toward the kitchen, expecting me to jump up and follow. Expecting the usual routine. Me asking what happened, if she's okay, does she need anything? Let me make you some coffee, baby. That's how it always went. Brittany would have some crisis or drama, and I'd slide into support mode. Been doing it for 3 years. But I didn't move. Stayed on that couch. Didn't even turn my head to watch her go. She made it maybe 3 steps before she stopped. I could feel her turning around. The air in the room changed. Got heavier. That's when she actually looked at the scene behind me. Really looked at it for the first time. The dining table with its perfectly arranged place settings. The candles, still in their packaging because I'd been planning to light them when she arrived. The vintage wine, Chateau Lynch Bages 2010, $200 I'd dropped on it. Specifically because she'd mentioned it was her favorite when we did that wine tasting tour. 2 crystal glasses sitting next to the bottle, completely unused, perfectly clean. A silent testament to the dinner that never happened. Jake, please, she sighed, and I could hear that preemptive annoyance creeping into her voice. The tone that says I'm about to make this your problem, not mine. Don't do this. Don't start with the guilt trip right now. Start what? I asked. Kept my voice level. Calm. Almost clinical. The silent treatment thing. The passive-aggressive sitting in the dark thing. Tyler was in a really bad place last night, okay? He was spiraling hard. Like, really hard. He called me around 9 completely panicking. If I hadn't gone over there, I honestly don't know what he would have done to himself. I had to go. Tyler Madison. Her ex. The perpetual disaster she'd dated for 2 messy, turbulent years before she met me. The guy who was supposedly a DJ on the verge of making it big at 24, and somehow, miraculously, still a DJ on the verge of making it big at 29. 5 years of being on the verge. Must be quite the edge. For 3 solid years, I'd been the stable one in Brittany's life. The responsible civil engineer who paid 70% of our bills because she was investing in her career as a social media coordinator. The guy who planned our trips, booked everything, made sure the rent was paid on time. The one who fixed every broken thing in our apartment. The leaking kitchen faucet, the bathroom door that stuck, the garbage disposal that kept jamming. I'd learned basic plumbing from YouTube just to avoid calling a guy. Tyler was the opposite. The chaotic creative. The struggling artist who only ever called Brittany when he was broke, lonely, high, or having some kind of existential crisis about his music career, which was roughly every 3 weeks like clockwork. And every single time, Brittany would drop everything to go manage his emotional state. I'd put up with it because I trusted her, because she'd told me 100 times that Tyler was just a friend now, that chapter was closed, that I had nothing to worry about. And like an idiot, I'd believed it. Because when you love someone, you want to believe the best version of their story. It was our 3rd anniversary, Brittany, I said. Let the words just sit there in the space between us. She actually rolled her eyes. Like physically rolled them at me. I know. And I feel absolutely terrible about missing the dinner. I really do. But Jake, this was literally life or death. He was talking about ending everything. Suicide. What kind of person would I be if I just ignored that because of some dinner reservation? What kind of heartless monster ignores someone who's suicidal? The manipulation was so textbook I almost laughed. She was trying to make me the villain. Trying to make me the bad guy for caring that she'd ditched our anniversary. For caring that she'd stood me up at a restaurant I'd booked 4 months in advance. Carrying a ring in my pocket that cost me 6 months of sacrifices. So he was actively, imminently suicidal? I asked. My voice stayed calm. Engineers are good at that. Staying calm while everything's falling apart. Yes, she said, nodding vigorously. He was absolutely hysterical. Crying, couldn't breathe, the whole thing. Did you call emergency services? The question landed like a brick. She froze. Just for half a second, but I caught it. What? She said. If he was an immediate, active threat to himself, the appropriate response is to call professionals. Crisis intervention teams. People who are actually trained for suicide prevention. Did you call them? Did you call anyone qualified to handle that situation? Her face shifted. The annoyance was cracking, guilt seeping through. No, Jake, I didn't call the police on him. That's not... He just needed someone there to talk to. Someone who knows him. He needed to not feel alone. Right, I said. So you decided you, specifically, were the only person in his entire life who could prevent him from self-harm. Not a trained professional, not a crisis hotline, not even his family. Just you. You're twisting this, she snapped. I stood up from the couch, started walking toward her slowly. As I got closer, the smell hit me. It was specific. Detailed. The kind of smell that tells a whole story if you're paying attention. It wasn't the antiseptic smell of a hospital waiting room. Wasn't the sterile cleanliness of an emergency room or a crisis center. It was stale smoke from those fruit-flavored disposable vapes Tyler was constantly puffing on. The sour, yeasty smell of spilled beer. And underneath everything else, cutting through it all, was that aggressive, musky cologne he always wore. I think the brand was Santal 33 or something equally pretentious. I knew the smell because Brittany used to come home from catching up with old friends, reeking of it. You smell like a dive bar, I stated. Not an accusation, just an observation. Her face went red. Guilty red. We had a drink after he calmed down, just to settle his nerves. Then we fell asleep on his couch, watching some movie. Nothing happened, Jake. You missed our anniversary dinner to get tipsy with your ex-boyfriend because he felt lonely. He needed me, she shouted, voice cracking. God, you're so insecure about this. You can't handle that I care about other people. If you actually trusted me instead of being jealous all the time, you'd understand. That sentence right there? That killed it. If you actually trusted me, you'd understand. I looked at her. Really looked. Saw the smeared eyeliner she'd tried to wash off in his bathroom. Saw the defensive way she was standing, arms crossed, chin up. She wasn't sorry. Not even a little. She felt entitled to my patience, entitled to my stability, while she got her emotional fix from the disaster of her past. She wanted to play therapist to a guy who refused to grow up, and she wanted me to foot the bill for the apartment she came home to. I didn't say another word, just turned around, walked past her, headed to the bedroom. Jake, where are you going? Are you seriously walking away from me right now? She followed, voice getting higher and louder. I pulled my suitcase down from the closet shelf, threw it on the bed, unzipped it. Oh my God! You've got to be kidding me! She laughed. This harsh, disbelieving sound. You're packing because I helped a friend? You're being so dramatic. I walked to the dresser, started pulling out clothes. Jake, stop! Talk to me. I opened the sock drawer. My fingers went to the back, under the heavy wool hiking socks, and touched the small box I'd hidden there. Navy blue velvet. Inside was a platinum band with a 1.5-carat solitaire diamond. 6 months of saving. A 2-hour drive to a specific jeweler to get the exact cut she'd mentioned once. I was going to propose over dessert last night. I turned around. Brittany was standing in the bedroom doorway, hands on her hips, ready to launch into another speech about my trust issues. Then she looked at my hand. Her mouth was open mid-sentence, but nothing came out. Her eyes went huge. Her whole face didn't just go pale. It went gray. Her hands dropped from her hips, hanging limp at her sides. All that arrogance drained right out of her face, replaced by this sudden horrible understanding. She stared at the box, then at the suitcase, then at me. Jake, she whispered. The word barely made it out of her throat. Were you going to... I didn't answer. Didn't open the box to show her the ring she just lost. She didn't deserve to see it sparkle. I slipped the box into my pocket, turned back to the bed, and threw in 3 days of clothes, my laptop, toiletries. Zipped it shut. No, she started stammering, stepping into the room. She reached for my arm. Jake, wait! You were going to propose last night? I moved past her reach, grabbed the suitcase handle. Jake, please stop. Let's talk about this. She blocked the doorway now. Tears were forming. Real tears this time. Not manipulation tears. Actual lost tears. If I had known, I never would have picked up the phone. I would have told Tyler to leave me alone. I swear. I stopped for exactly 1 second. Just long enough to look her dead in the eyes. That's the thing, Brittany, I said quietly. You shouldn't have needed a ring to know that. I moved past her. She tried grabbing the suitcase, her fingernails scraping the fabric, but I pulled it away. I walked down the hallway with her footsteps pounding behind me. You can't just leave. We live together. Jake, I love you. I opened the front door. Jake! She screamed. A guttural sound that probably woke up half the building. I stepped out, closed the door gently behind me, listened to the lock click, walked down the stairs, got in my car, drove away. No radio. Just silence. And honestly, I felt lighter than I had in years. The first 2 days after leaving were like a masterclass in modern digital harassment. I'd checked into this bland mid-range hotel about 20 minutes from our apartment, one of those generic chain places with beige walls and abstract art. Not glamorous, but it was quiet, clean, and most importantly, it wasn't there. I sat on that stiff hotel bed with scratchy sheets, watching my phone vibrate across the nightstand like a dying beetle. The screen would light up, buzz, light up again, over and over. Brittany, 12 missed calls by Sunday morning. Brittany, 14 text messages by noon. Brittany, 23 voicemails I didn't listen to. The texts followed this incredibly predictable pattern. The 5 stages of a narcissist losing their safety net. Phase 1 was denial and bargaining. This phase lasted from Saturday morning until Sunday afternoon. Baby, please pick up. I can't breathe right now. You're scaring me. I'm throwing out all of Tyler's stuff right now. I'll send you pictures to prove it. Just come home and we can talk this through. We can fix this. We can get through anything. Couples go through rough patches all the time. We don't just throw away 3 years over one misunderstanding. I'll do anything to make this right. Please just tell me what you need me to do. Phase 2 was anger. Started Sunday evening, lasted through Monday morning. You're being incredibly immature right now. So you're just going to abandon me after everything I did for you? After I supported you through your job stress? That's actual cowardice, Jake. You clearly never really loved me if you can just walk away this easily. You were probably just looking for an excuse to leave. I bet you've been wanting out for months. The job stress thing was rich. She supported me by complaining that I worked too much and didn't give her enough attention. Real supportive. Phase 3 was the flying monkeys. By Sunday afternoon, she'd deployed her entire network. Her best friend Madison called first. For context, Madison had cheated on 2 different husbands and somehow still considered herself a qualified relationship counselor. She'd been telling Brittany for years that I was too controlling because I asked Brittany to contribute to rent and not blow her entire paycheck on brunch and clothes. I made the mistake of answering one of her calls, mostly because I genuinely needed to know if Brittany was going to do something crazy, like set the apartment on fire or trash my stuff. Jake, you need to end this cruel performance right now, Madison snapped, before I could even get out a hello. Her voice was so shrill it could have shattered glass. She is on the floor, Jake. Literally on the floor, sobbing her eyes out. You can't just dangle an engagement ring in someone's face and then completely abandon them. Do you realize that's a form of psychological abuse? That's what you're doing. You're abusing her. I was sitting in this uncomfortable chair by the hotel window, watching traffic crawl by on the interstate. I felt this weird detachment from everything, like I was floating above my own life, watching it happen to someone else. I didn't dangle anything, I said. My voice came out calmer than I expected, almost robotic. I packed it. The ring belongs to me. Just like the rent money she's going to desperately need next month when she realizes I'm not coming back. You are heartless! Madison practically shrieked into the phone. She made one mistake, Jake. One. She was trying to be a good friend to someone who was suffering. And you're punishing her like she committed some kind of crime. Madison, I cut her off, keeping my voice low and level. Let me paint you a picture. She came home at 8 in the morning smelling like his cologne and stale beer. She missed a dinner reservation I made 4 months ago. She chose to spend our anniversary getting tipsy with her ex instead of with me. She didn't save a life. She went on a date. Tell Brittany she has until the end of the month to figure out the lease situation. I'll pay my half of rent through the end of this month like the lease requires. After that, she's completely on her own. Jake, you can't just... I hung up mid-sentence. Blocked Madison's number. Then I went through and blocked Brittany's sister Rachel. Blocked her work friend Sasha. Muted the entire group chat we'd all been in together. Just methodically cutting out every avenue she had to reach me through proxy. It felt good. Felt like taking control back. Monday morning, I went to work like absolutely nothing had happened. Showered at the hotel, put on a clean shirt, drove to the office, walked in at my normal time, grabbed coffee from the break room, sat down at my desk. My coworker Ben asked if I had a good weekend. I said it was fine. Didn't elaborate. He didn't push. That's the thing about working with engineers. Nobody really digs too deep into personal stuff. We talk about load calculations and project deadlines, not feelings. I threw myself completely into work, buried myself in spreadsheets and structural load analyses, reviewed building codes, double-checked calculations for a bridge reinforcement project we were bidding on. It was genuinely meditative, almost therapeutic. When you're dealing with betrayal, when your whole personal life has just imploded, there's something incredibly soothing about math. Math is honest. Math doesn't lie to you. Math doesn't gaslight you about where it was last night. Math doesn't smell like someone else's cologne. 2 plus 2 will never call its ex at midnight because it's confused or in a bad place. The numbers made sense. The equations balanced. The stress calculations were either correct or they weren't. No gray area. No interpretation needed. No having to read between the lines or wonder if something means what it obviously means. I worked through lunch every day that week, stayed late a few nights. Not because I was avoiding the hotel. I just genuinely didn't have anything else to do, and the work needed doing anyway. My manager actually commented that I seemed really focused. I told him I'd just gotten some clarity on priorities. The complete silence from my end, the total radio silence, zero responses to anything, seemed to break something fundamental in Brittany. By Wednesday, the angry texts had completely stopped. They got replaced with something way more pathetic. Phase 4, desperation and self-pity. I miss you so much I can't sleep. The apartment feels so empty without you. Everything reminds me of us. I found your gray hoodie in the closet. It still smells like your cologne. I've been sleeping in it every night. I can't eat. I called in sick to work today. I don't know how to do this without you. I read every single one. Didn't respond to any of them. Just let them pile up on my phone like evidence in a court case. Evidence that she finally understood what she'd thrown away. The image of her face when she saw that ring box was permanently burned into my brain. That moment of horrified realization. That instant when everything clicked for her and she understood the magnitude of what she'd done. That was my closure. That was all I needed. Anything I said now would just dilute that perfect moment of recognition. Words couldn't add anything to that. About 3 weeks later, I had to swing by the apartment to grab the rest of my stuff. I timed it for a Tuesday morning when I knew she had a team meeting at work. The place was trashed. Looked like a frat house after spring break. Takeout containers covering the coffee table. A mountain of dirty laundry on the sofa. It was basically her internal state made physical. I packed my books, my espresso machine, the rest of my clothes. As I was loading the last box into my car, my neighbor Mrs. Patterson walked by with her pug. Mrs. Patterson was basically the neighborhood surveillance system. "Jake," she waved, shuffling over. "I haven't seen you around. Is everything all right? Brittany's had quite a bit of company lately." I paused. "I moved out, Mrs. Patterson. We broke up." She leaned in, conspiratorial. "Oh, well, that young man with the loud muffler has been parking in your spot. Plays music at all hours. I was going to complain to the building manager, but I didn't want to cause problems." Tyler. Of course. It hadn't even been a month, and the parasite had already latched onto the new host. I felt a wave of nausea, followed immediately by relief. Not my problem anymore. "Feel free to complain, Mrs. Patterson," I smiled. "I'm off the lease as of the 1st. Not my spot anymore." Over the next few months, I heard the rest of the story through mutual acquaintances. Information still finds its way to you, even when you try to completely cut ties. Apparently, the second I was out of the picture, Brittany immediately tried to recreate what we had, except with Tyler. She tried to lean on him for the emotional and financial stability I'd been providing. She expected him to step up and transform from struggling DJ into responsible partner. She genuinely thought their connection had been stifled by my presence. Thought now they could finally flourish together. Reality hit her like a freight train. See, Tyler didn't want a girlfriend. He wanted a fan. Someone to validate his artistic vision and tell him he was talented. He didn't want to split rent or build a future. He wanted a place to crash between gigs that didn't exist. Within the first month, he'd basically moved into my old spot, treated the apartment like his personal studio, set up his decks and speakers in what used to be our living room, played music until 3 a.m. on weeknights. By month 2, he'd borrowed $3,000 from Brittany for professional-grade equipment that would help him book better gigs. Gigs that never materialized. She paid for everything, covered rent, bought groceries, paid utilities. Tyler contributed nothing but dirty dishes and complaints. He started bringing his creative friends over at all hours. These weren't even friends. They were basically other struggling DJs and random people from clubs. They'd show up at midnight, drink everything in the fridge, crash on the couch, and leave the place trashed. Brittany's sanctuary, the apartment I'd kept clean and organized, turned into a flophouse. When she finally worked up the nerve to ask Tyler to contribute something, or at least clean up after himself and his friends, he hit her with the same exact lines he'd been using for years. "You're stifling my creativity, Brittany. You're being too uptight about this. Stop trying to control me. You're acting just like my mom. I need space to be myself." The irony was almost too perfect. She'd chosen his chaos over my stability, and now she was getting exactly what she'd asked for. The full Tyler experience, 24/7, with no stable boyfriend in the background to pay the bills while she played savior. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then I remembered the smell of his cologne on her at 8 a.m. on our anniversary morning. The final nail in that particular coffin came about 4 months after I left. I was out getting food with my buddy Chris, who'd somehow managed to stay neutral through the whole breakup, and still followed both of us on social media. "Dude," Chris said halfway through our meal, sliding his phone across the table with this look on his face. "You need to see this." It was Brittany's social media story. Just text on a black background, small white font, the universal symbol of a very public, very dramatic meltdown. Funny how you can throw away the best thing that ever happened to you for someone who treats you like you're just an option when they're bored. Some lessons you learn too late. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a second. She dumped Tyler? Better, Chris said, and I could see he was trying not to smile. Tyler cheated on her. With a 19-year-old club promoter he met at some underground DJ night, Brittany came home early from work one day and found them together. In your old bed. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Just this short, sharp bark of laughter that made the couple at the next table look over. That's... I shook my head. That's actually perfect. Karma's real, man, Chris said, taking his phone back. She's been asking about you, by the way, he added carefully, watching my reaction. She knows I'm seeing you tonight. Asked if you're dating anyone. Asked if you ever mention her. I thought about Nicole, the woman I'd met at the rock climbing gym about a month ago. She was a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital. Smart, funny, straightforward, had her life completely together. We'd been on 4 dates so far. Nothing rushed, no drama, no emotional games. Just 2 adults getting to know each other and seeing where it went. When Nicole had a rough shift at work, she didn't disappear for 12 hours and make me wonder if we were okay. She texted me about it. We'd order Thai food, watch something mindless, and she'd decompress by telling me about her day. No manipulation, no tests, just honest, direct communication. Tell her I'm doing really well, I said to Chris. Better than I've been in years. And tell her I sold the ring. Chris's eyebrows shot up. You sold it? The engagement ring? Yep, sold it 3 weeks ago. What did you do with the money? Remember that vintage Ducati 996 I was always talking about? The one I'd been eyeing for like 5 years? I signaled for the check. Brittany always said motorcycles were too dangerous. Said she'd never feel comfortable with me riding one. Wouldn't even discuss it. I pulled out my wallet. Well, turns out she was the dangerous one. The bike's great, by the way. Took it up the coast last weekend. Best decision I've made in years. I stood up, grabbed my jacket. Turns out, I added, she was the dangerous one. 6 months passed. If you've never rebuilt your entire life from the ground up, let me tell you. It's genuinely addictive once you get past the hard part. The first month after leaving was brutal. Raw. Every morning I woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. Every evening I came home to silence instead of her music playing or the sound of her moving around the apartment. The second month was pure work. Just grinding through each day. Going through the motions. Existing but not really living. But by the third month, something shifted. I started realizing how much dead weight I'd actually been carrying. How much mental energy I'd been spending managing someone else's emotional state. How many of my own needs and wants I'd been putting aside to keep the peace. I wasn't just free of Brittany. I was free of the constant anxiety she called passion. Free of walking on eggshells, wondering if suggesting she contribute more to rent would trigger a 3-day argument about how I didn't understand her career trajectory. Free of the weird jealousy games, the random tests of my devotion, the constant need for reassurance. She'd wanted to play savior to a perpetual man-child who refused to grow up, and she'd wanted me to subsidize that fantasy by paying for the nice apartment she came home to when the chaos got too real. I threw myself into everything I'd been putting on hold. Worked harder, but smarter this time. Took on the projects nobody else wanted, the complicated ones that required actual problem solving. Got noticed by upper management. 6 months after the breakup, I got promoted to senior project manager with a 25% raise. Bought that Ducati 996 I'd been drooling over for years. Brittany had always vetoed it, said motorcycles were dangerous death traps, and she'd never feel comfortable with me riding one. Funny how that worked out. I took that bike up the Pacific Coast Highway almost every weekend, feeling the wind tear past me, clearing out the last cobwebs of that relationship. And I started seeing Nicole. Really seeing her, not just dating casually. Nicole was different from the ground up. She was a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital, had her life completely together. When she had a genuinely rough day at work, like losing a patient or dealing with heartbreaking family situations, she didn't lash out at me or disappear for 12 hours. She just told me about it. We'd order Thai food, watch whatever sci-fi garbage was on streaming, and she'd decompress by talking through it. No games, no tests of my loyalty, no manufactured drama. Just 2 adults with their stuff together, building something solid and real. One random Tuesday evening about 6 months after I'd left, I was at this high-end furniture store downtown called Jensen & Burke. I was finally buying a new sectional for my condo, the place I'd bought entirely with my own money, decorated completely with my own taste. No more beige throw pillows with inspirational quotes. No more live laugh love signs. No more compromising my style for someone else's Pinterest board. I was in the contemporary section, testing out this charcoal gray leather sofa. Sitting on it, checking the firmness, imagining it in my living room. The store was pretty empty for a Tuesday evening. Just a few other couples browsing. A salesperson hovering nearby in case I needed help. That's when I felt it. You know that primal instinct? That lizard brain awareness that you're being watched? The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I turned around slowly. Standing about 20 feet away near the store entrance, looking like an actual ghost of her former self, was Brittany. She looked diminished. That's genuinely the only word that fits. She'd always carried herself with this confidence, sometimes crossing into arrogance, but now she just looked small, defeated. She was wearing old gray yoga pants with a stain on one leg and an oversized hoodie that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back in this messy, frantic bun with pieces falling out all over the place. She looked exhausted, genuinely looked like she'd aged 5 years in the last 6 months. She was holding one of those cheap iced coffees from the gas station, not the fancy stuff she used to insist on, and she was just staring at me like she'd seen a ghost, like I was some kind of mirage that might disappear if she looked away. I felt nothing. No spike of adrenaline, no anger, no sadness, no longing, just this flat, complete indifference, like seeing an acquaintance from a job I'd left years ago. She hesitated for a long moment, clearly debating whether to approach. Then she started walking over. Her walk was tentative, uncertain, missing that confident stride she used to have. The stride that said she knew she was the hottest person in any room. "Jake," she said when she got close. Her voice came out small, uncertain. "Brittany," I nodded politely, kept my voice neutral. "How are you?" She blinked a few times, clearly thrown completely off balance by my calm tone. She'd probably spent the whole walk over here preparing for anger, or maybe longing, had probably hoped I'd been miserable without her. Didn't know what to do with this complete indifference. I'm okay," she lied. Her eyes darted over my outfit, the tailored charcoal jacket I was wearing, the nice leather boots, the watch Nicole had bought me for my birthday. Then her eyes moved to the expensive leather sofa I'd been sitting on, taking in the price tag visible on the arm. "You look really good, really happy." "I am," I said simply. Didn't elaborate. "I really am." She bit her lower lip. That thing she used to do when she was nervous or wanted something. I could literally see the gears turning behind her eyes. Calculating, looking for an opening, trying to figure out her angle. "I heard about your promotion," she said, attempting casual conversation. "Chris told me. Congratulations." "That's amazing. You always worked so hard. I always said you'd end up running that whole place someday." "You actually said I worked too much and needed to learn how to relax and be spontaneous," I corrected her gently. My voice stayed even. "But thanks anyway." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "Jake, look." She shifted her weight, moved slightly closer. "Can we talk? Just for 5 minutes. I know I don't deserve it, but I tried texting you and—" "I blocked you, Brittany," I said. Matter of fact, I know you did, and I absolutely deserved it." She took another step closer, fully invading my personal space now. The smell hit me. Stale coffee, unwashed hair, that desperate energy that comes off people who are barely holding it together. "But I need to say this. I need you to know that I messed up. Big time. Tyler, God, Tyler was such a massive, horrible mistake." I checked my watch. Not as some power move. I genuinely had dinner plans with Nicole in 45 minutes. "I know," I said. That stopped her for a second. You know?" "Heard through the grapevine," I said. "Borrowed money from you. Cheated with someone half your age. It's a tale as old as time, really. He was awful, Jake. Truly awful. Manipulative. Emotionally draining." Tears started forming in her eyes now. Real tears. Not the manipulative kind. "He used me. Drained my bank account. Took everything from me. I'm literally staying on Madison's couch right now because I couldn't afford to keep the apartment on my own." I didn't say anything. Just let her keep talking. "I realized something," she continued, voice shaking. "Every single time he treated me like garbage. Every time he borrowed money and didn't pay it back. Every time he chose his boys over me. Every time he stayed out all night without calling. I thought of you. I thought about how safe I always felt with you. How you never made me feel anxious or uncertain. How I always knew where I stood." She reached out, her hand hovering just inches from my arm but not quite touching, probably afraid I'd pull away. "I miss us so much, Jake. I miss my best friend. I know I broke your trust. I know I hurt you. But people change. People learn from their mistakes. I've grown so much from this. We can start over. Slowly. I can make everything up to you. I can prove that I've changed." This was it. The moment she'd probably been rehearsing in her head for weeks, maybe months. The big pitch, the grand gesture, her last shot. I looked at her hand, then slowly moved my eyes up to her face. I let myself remember that anniversary morning. Remembered her walking in at 8 a.m. reeking of Tyler's cologne. Remembered her standing in our hallway, defensive and entitled, telling me I was too insecure and jealous. Remembered her making me feel crazy for having basic relationship boundaries. "Brittany," I said. My voice stayed completely steady. "Do you remember what you said to me that morning, when you came home smelling like him? She frowned, confused by the question. I I said a lot of things that morning. I was defensive. I was wrong about all of it. You said one specific thing. You said I would have understood if I trusted you. Recognition dawned on her face. She nodded eagerly, desperately. Yes. And I know I was so wrong to say that. I know that was manipulative. I know I was trying to make you feel bad for having completely reasonable boundaries. You weren't wrong, I said quietly. She froze completely. What? You were actually right, I said. If I had trusted you that morning, I would have been a complete fool. But I made the much better choice. I trusted myself instead. I trusted my gut, my instincts, my own worth. And I understood exactly what I needed to do. I took a deliberate step back, putting physical distance between us, creating space. I don't hate you, Brittany. I need you to understand that. I don't hate you. I don't wish bad things on you. I don't sit around thinking about revenge. I don't think about you enough to hate you. But we aren't starting over. We aren't trying again. We aren't anything. You made a choice that night. You chose a life of chaos and drama over a life of stability and partnership. I chose peace. And I'm absolutely not trading my peace to help fix your mistakes or make you feel better about your choices. Her face crumpled. The tears that had been forming finally spilled over. But the ring, Jake. You bought an engagement ring. You wanted to marry me. You were planning a whole future with me. You can't just turn that kind of love off like a light switch. I didn't turn it off, I said. My voice stayed calm, almost gentle. You killed it that morning. You looked me dead in the eyes and chose him over me. Over us. Over everything we'd built. After that, the ring was just a piece of metal. Expensive metal, but still just metal. I paused, let that sink in for a second. I sold it, actually, I added. About 2 months ago. Got a pretty good price for it, too. Put the money toward the down payment on my condo. So in a weird way, you did help me build my future. Just not the future you wanted. Not the one you thought you'd have. Her mouth opened and closed a few times. No sound came out. She looked around the furniture store. At the expensive leather sofas, at the designer lighting fixtures, at the price tags that represented a life she could have had, at the version of me standing in front of her that she'd thrown away for a guy who cheated on her with a 19-year-old club promoter. I really do have to go, I said, checking my watch again. Nicole's waiting for me. We're making dinner together tonight. Nicole, she whispered. The name came out like she was testing it, like saying it made it real. My girlfriend, I said. And man, that word tasted good in my mouth. We've been together for 3 months now. She trusts me completely, and I trust her completely. It's this crazy thing where we just communicate, like adults. It's actually nice. Refreshing. You should try it sometime. The whole honesty and trust thing. I didn't wait for her to respond. Didn't give her a chance to launch into another desperate pitch. I just turned my back on her. Literally turned around and started walking toward the exit. Jake, wait. I heard her voice behind me, small and broken. I didn't turn around. Didn't pause. Didn't look back. I walked toward the exit, toward the cool evening air, toward where my Ducati was parked at the curb, toward my condo that I'd decorated myself, toward Nicole, who was probably already at my place starting to prep vegetables for the stir-fry we were making, toward a future that was finally, completely, totally mine. Behind me in that furniture store, there was only silence. And you know what? It was absolutely beautiful. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.